dream. You know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes.
My buddy and me.
Telecommunications Act of 1996.
96, y'all.
Gonna filter your eyes and scrub your mind. The weatherman, he's just another bad joke. You can be a doomed little donkey like Eeyore. I'm gonna be an auto hoax, and it feels so good. You just ought to believe everything like I knew that you would. In my dream, you know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes. Ain't got no heart, ain't got no soul.
This is only a drill. He is holding a fake gun. Today, thousands of teachers are now required to participate in active shooter drills like this one.
I know it's a drill, but does it feel real?
It does.
Every month at Casa de Niños in Yuma, Arizona, after the students go home, the teachers go through active shooter trainings. But this is a preschool
Get down.
with kids as young as 1 year old. Since Columbine, 16% of school shootings took place where preschoolers and kindergarteners were present. This is Jessica Alcantara's 10th active shooter drill since August. She's been a teacher for 12 years.
Years ago, when you started doing this, did you ever think you'd be locking kids down and taking
No.
precautions for a potential shooter?
No, because back in the days when I grew up, I was in school. That's the safest place ever. So, and then all this happening, it's like, am I really safe in school?
In the next drill, there's a twist. A student gunman.
No, stop! There's always that moment where, even though it's just a practice, it gets to you.
Each drill costs the school $1,000. A 2016 U.S. government accountability report found 2/3 of school districts across the country conduct active shooter drills.
Outside.
The training is required by Sabrina Seal, the preschool's owner.
Anna, come here, come on.
I'm very protective, very, 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 very protective. And we wear so many hats. We're a nurse, we're a teacher, we're a mom.
Super cool, I like it.
And now you're security.
And that is totally put us in a different element that we were not prepared for.
We came back the next morning.
There are 4- and 5-year-olds in that classroom, and they don't know it yet, but at any moment there's going to be a lockdown drill where the teachers have to apply what they learned and keep these kids safe.
But there won't be any guns, and the kids are told it's a game.
Miss Anna, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Over there, let's go. Okay, guys, it's over.
Why do you have to be so quiet?
Because a stranger might take you.
A stranger might take you?
We call it a stranger. We're not going to tell them, it can be, have a weapon and go to an extreme. We just put a name on it so they know.
You got down there nice and quiet, huh?
When you were crouched down with the kids, what was going through your mind?
My mind was blank. It was just to keep them safe, keep them quiet.
Are we teaching them at such a young age to be scared?
It's not quite teaching them. We're just keeping them safe. Because I don't want them to be afraid. I'm not going to lie. It can be, to the point that they question, like, why are we doing this? Or why do I need to be safe if this should be all safe? Okay, you guys did a fabulous job. Good job.
It is so jarring to see this, Adriana. How widespread have these drills become?
Well, Jeff, nearly 95% of public schools do some sort of lockdown drills, but about 2/3 do lockdown drills and drills catered specifically for active shooter situations.
You look at these kids, their eyes, as they look up and as they engage in these. What is it like being there when they're there?
It was eerie because one minute they're rambunctious 4- and 5-year-olds. The next, they're diving behind desks and they're so quiet you could hear a pin drop. So if somebody didn't know there was a drill going on in that room, they would walk in and not even know the kids were there because they've become that good at hiding.
They are grown up real fast. Adriana, thank you.
I'd like to find the news clip. If we could find the one where the guy's talking to the reporter about how he recognized the shooter and played pool with him. It seemed like a nice guy. Because, yeah, the shooter wore a mask. And not only was he wearing a mask in the story, but they said he had a mask, trench coat, the bottom part of his face was covered, and he wore black sunglasses. Well, how did you look into his eyes as he killed your friend if the shooter had sunglasses? Then we have the instance of the individual who survived the Vegas shooting gets killed here. Well, look at this. Others. There wasn't just one. Brendan Kelly speaks with reporters outside his home as he shows his Route 91 tattoo. No, this is in Thousand Oaks. This guy, Kelly, was a Marine, and he was at Borderline Bar and Grill Wednesday. Oh, he's still a Marine. So this guy's in the military running a psyop on people. That's bad. So we got a Marine. This is good. Somebody ought to search to find out if there actually is a real Marine named Brendan Kelly. I kind of doubt it. I doubt it. I think this is a character. But if we've been saying, how are we going to find out if these crisis actors, if they're real people blending in, or if they're like full-time government operatives? Is this a single gig where they might be a whistleblower, or is it a lifetime thing? And we keep seeing a lot of the same faces, so I think it's like a family, is how I described it earlier. How close-knit they are. It's a cult. It's a guild. Like Screen Actors Guild, it's the GAG, Government Actors Guild. So Brendan Kelly, a Marine, was at Borderline Bar and Grill, and he helped people get out after the gunman opened fire. So maybe he was somebody throwing chairs through the windows or something. Kelly also survived the Las Vegas Route 91 Harvest Festival. So you're going to tell me we have a Marine named Brendan Kelly who survived 2 mass shootings in this country, both of which are very contested as to whether they actually happened. People who investigate know they have not. You're going to tell me we have a Marine who, having never been deployed into combat, has been fired upon twice, as reported here? This is absolute bullshit, and Brendan Kelly is a fake Marine if he exists at all, and I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Okay, now this is another one from CBS. They actually have this big parade set up. It's like the guy's body hasn't even been autopsied yet. But look, they're having a ceremony for the police officer or the sheriff who heard noise and he ran up there to the door and he got shot. This thing hasn't been investigated. the witnesses aren't running to the police to give their eyewitness accounts. No, they're talking to the news. I mean, this is so much, to me, this is just theater. Let's just call it what it is. This is political theater. It's agitprop. It's propaganda. They're a bunch of actors. And as we've seen in part 1 of this series I'm doing on the Borderline Bar and Grill hoax.
Okay, that's from the archives over on BitChute. Let me go ahead and send out a couple more shares. Go ahead and share the stream if you haven't. This is Chief Crow. Alright, that's Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. What's up, 200? Joining us from DLive. So what we're talking about right now is an event which is, I believe it's dying down as we speak. No pun intended. Not a huge body count. Not a whole lot there to even substantiate it as anything other than an ugly MSM rumor. 3 injuries reported from shooting at Pearl Harbor Navy Shipyard. So it's not high on body count. The shooter took his own life. So already what it looks like to me is mental health awareness. This guy slipped through the cracks. Mental health is a problem. And then they're going to highlight suicides in the military because the statistics. And they play on these statistics, but I think they're going to tie it into this. Because the main thrust of the whole mass shooting agenda, these fake staged psyop events, not false flags, psyops, has been to create in the minds of the public this new devil, this bad guy, this universal threat. And so here we have it's Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam near Honolulu. According to the information, it's the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. Happened at 2:30 local time. The base confirmed that access to the gates were closed. So what I'm looking for on this one, just as I did with Fort Hood, is the coverage. I'm looking to see, what kind of coverage are we going to get, because it's usually going to be done by the military on the base. They have their own media who would be doing this, their own reporters. They're not going to let CNN run amok on the base and then interview soldiers. They won't really be doing that. That would be kind of impossible for the media to get in on the base and get that kind of access. And that's one of the things that usually gives out something that's staged, where 20 minutes after it happens, the media is already there and they're already interviewing victims. It's like, what do you mean interviewing victims? Shouldn't they talk to the police first? You wouldn't want to Mendoozle them. Hey, thanks, Strawberry, for handing over your last lemon. So let's continue. Military police responded to this is ABC Action News. They really must have been in a hurry. It's full of typos. Okay, let's move on. 3 injuries. The suspect has been, quote, contained. 19,000 active duty. 11,000 Department of Defense. 63 66,000 Navy and Air Force personnel. Now, this is already in itself kind of a story, a topic. Well, you know what the 66,300 have in common? These Navy and Air Force men. What they all have in common is they all think, and I can say all, there's not a single doubter among them because that's how contained this thing is. They all think that they are in a world where Islamic terrorism is real, school shootings happen on the regular, and they probably believe in climate change too because according to the Pentagon, climate change is a national security threat. It's just as real to them as the threat of nukes. So basically what you have is a population of totally brainwashed fundamentalist believers in the Church of State, which is the MSM. It's actually kind of unsettling if you think about it. If it wasn't for armed killers trained and ready to respond to orders, 9/11 would just be a really bad movie. But it motivated people. Look at this here. The incident happened just 3 days before a remembrance for Pearl Harbor in 1941. In all likelihood, this is connected. This is another seasonal psyop. They like to do the ones in the winter that make you think about depression, seasonal affective disorder. The sad thing, the mental health issue accompanying people whose emotions, take them to these places where they think about suicide. And so that's being brought up. And then, of course, Pearl Harbor. This gets to jump in. This story gets thrown in with all the remembrances going on. And you know that the media will use this to condemn us. What they'll say is, there was a time when the worst we had to fear was the threat of an alien invasion, bombing our bases. Now we got to worry about our own servicemen killing other servicemen because we can't handle mental health or whatever. Like they're going to use this in some way they're going to use this as a referendum on America, as they always do with these psyops. Like, you caused this. You caused the climate change. You caused the shootings, and so on. Now, the story is developing. That's really all we know. For sure. I mean, there's some there's some witnesses who talked about hearing pops. But again, I have to ask, if there's a shooting on a base, why is it being broadcast on the nightly news? What about privacy? What about investigation? What about preserving the integrity of the investigation? Do you really want to make it a news event? And so what I'm saying is, just because it's being reported doesn't mean it's real. And you all know this if you've been listening and you've been following these things. I have no reason to think this is real. All we have are pictures. And as William Randolph Hearst said, you provide the photos, I'll provide you the war. So to me, this looks like a PR stunt. It's a PR stunt. Military's complicit. It's a psychological operation to draw attention to mental health. I don't think anybody died. I don't think anybody got injured. We have no reason to believe it. And we're probably not going to see a lot of evidence supporting it. We're not going to see a shoe on the street. We're not going to get any of these carefully curated shots because it happens on a military base. I also want to draw your attention to this. Autohoax.com, as Tim Truth alerted me yesterday to this fact, they actually shut me down yesterday. So I didn't just lose YouTube. The Autohoax.com My Wikis page was deleted. So I contacted customer service and I'm like, hey, what happened to my website? I just paid for it on the 28th. And they said it was overrun by spam bots and they had to delete it. So it got spammed out of existence. No big deal. What I did is I moved Autohoax.com to a blog. So if you take a look at Autohoax.com, I have it now on a blogger. And I know how to maximize the use of bloggers for making it shareable. I use these as a content management system more than just a blog. This has a number of pages on it. So if you go to Autohoax.com, I have a button here for live streams. Everything I stream, I'm no longer using the Y word, the Y tube. I mean, you know what? I'll probably have mirrored streams over there, but the Infinite Plane Society ecosystem is a thing in itself. We really don't need their stupid platform with all of its church ladies. We just go there to burn it down. That's all. We just go there to, in fact, I have some ideas later. It might be fun. I was like, you know what? If I can't have any videos on YouTube, then nobody can have videos on YouTube that say bad things about me. And so I'm like, well, maybe we ought to just go purge all the negative press. Why not? Let's just go clean house. Now that Big Brother's on our side. So anyway, I have the live stream embedded at autohoax.com. So anytime we're doing one of these live deconstructions, you can just go there. You can share it from there. And if you don't want to watch it on here, at the very top, Twitch, Facebook. It does have a YouTube link, but I'm not going to be focusing on it. And the nice thing is, wherever you are, you can even be watching on Float or on any of these other sites, the chats relay to a centralized chat module. So, like I said, we have our own ecosystem. It has nothing to do with that ridiculous site full of government agents. Simi says, setting fire to the Y-word establishment, gleefully so, making a party of it. Oh, you know what? They've been burning my books for 3 years. Susan Wojcicki has it coming. We're going to burn down YouTube. In fact, I was going to say, let's figure out ways to take down some big channels. I probably shouldn't say these things out loud, but we have some ideas. I mean, look, I was playing this before I started from BitChute. I have some videos that show you some of the hyper-realistic school shooting drills they put preschoolers through. I had an ABC News report, and it looks like child abuse, pointing guns at kids like that, herding them around like prisoners. It is sickening. And I'm like, wait, ABC News puts this on their channel. I'm going to flag it. Let's take that down. Let's hold them to the standards that they hold us to. I consider their stuff to be borderline content, and I'm hyper offended by it. I'm butt triggered by the MSM. I'm a church lady, butt triggered by the MSM. I've got a fainting couch. I can't stand what they put up there. It offends me, so we're going to have to censor it. Flick your bick. We got some books to burn. It's really that bad where they're burning our books and we have to start burning back, but we got to fight fire with fire. All right, so just to continue on this tour of the new autohoax.com website, as I said, we've got our built-in, in fact, I could probably even embed the chat module here. Like, there's no reason to go anywhere else. We could just, and look, every one of my blogs, every one of my sites, they all have this. So if you go to Infinite Plane Radio and I'm live, this will be on top. I'll just show you. So there's no reason to actually refer by name to any of these fascist corporations. So you go to infiniteplaneradio.com. Oh, look. What do you know? We got a live stream playing. And then you have a number of options here. And right below it are your archives. Let's go to my other blog, timosman.blogspot.com. Oh, bam, look, we're live. And I have dozens and dozens of blogs. I put this everywhere. I put that shit on everything. Restreamio. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so anyway. We no longer need a damn platform. We exist independently. They can't burn us down. Asymmetrical warfare. They created this monster. They really did. They created the backlash, and we're going to help mobilize the blowback. We're not going to let MSMTube get away with it. We don't let the mainstream media get away with crap anytime. We're always calling it out. Well, YouTube is MSMTube, so they've just basically sided with the consolidation of media. They sided against freedom and decentralization. Screw them. Yeah, that's a good call right there. Pearl Harbor. 3 people shot 3 days before Japan attack on Pearl Harbor. Totally scripted. They even had an update at 3:30 p.m. It's a Masonic excrement show. Just in time for the holidays to remind you about Pearl Harbor and say, hey, look, we've solved our problems with international relations. We're not at world war anymore. We have good relations with these nations, but now we're killing ourselves. Shame on us. That's what's coming. And they're going to also use this to say, hey, we've got to support our troops. Let's pay for more funding to drug them up. Pay for more psychiatrists. Because they're weaponizing psychiatry. and they're creating something here. They have been creating a straw man, a scapegoat out of veterans. You know how many of these shooters have been veterans? Like, oh, that's why he did it. He was a veteran. He has PTSD. With the Borderline shooting, they said, oh, he was a veteran, but he was a good veteran saved by, or who was stopped by a bad, how was it? He was a bad veteran shooting people, but there was a good vet in the audience at the concert who was able to save lives. So they usually have a contrast. But even after that event, they have celebrities like, what's his name? Oh yeah, Lady Gaga came out and he said, this just illustrates how we need to reopen the asylums and look at veterans closely and should they be allowed to own guns because they have PTSD and they can't help it. Paraphrasing. So that's the agenda they're rolling out. All right, let's continue on this. I wanted to just go through all the buttons on the site. Autohoax.com, the official archives of the Autohoax Army, unveiling the deception on all fronts. So I have a button here for books. All of the books that we're publishing on the topic: Autohoaxer Handbook, Deepfaked, Guardrails. Guardrails, by the way, was up to, and I'll check it again here in a minute, it was up to number 38 on censorship. Deepfakers, haven't filled that out yet, but I will. Discord Think Tank. So this is separate. This is just an open think tank for anybody who's not involved with us, but who just drops in. This is sort of like a waiting room to get into the Infinite Plane Society Discord. I just wanted to have this open, so if anybody wants to start contributing content, this is the best way to do it. Autohoax Army Shop, I had to add some things. We have a lot of great designs by X and others. Just Autohoax it. List of Autohoaxer channels. So I'm going to put a list of channels worth subscribing to so we can build our network. Death Fakers, another category to be included with the whole deepfaked reality. Autohoax Print Newspaper, which is coming in January. And so that button there will open up to just basically an order button and a download PDF. Because we're going to give away the newspaper digitally. We're going to publish the hell out of it and try to disseminate it widely. That's what we want to do. But at the same time, we want it available in print on demand. Now let's get into the body of this thing as it fills out. So the very first entry, which I did last night, was Autohoaxer. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually writing the blog entries over at Everpedia. It's blockchain. They can't erase it. They can't scrub it. They can't shut it down with spam bots like they did Autohoax.com twice this year. Twice they've shut down our wiki. Eel03 says the MSNBC interview of the two guys looks scripted. If you got a link, go ahead and drop it. I was listening to it and the dialogue sounded canned. It sounded just totally fake. Copy pasta, boilerplate. Yeah, I heard a pop, pop, pop. It's like, what do you mean? You're telling the news media you heard a pop, pop, pop. Why don't you go tell the police, do a witness statement, and try not to say anything that compromises the investigation? No, apparently they don't follow usual police procedures when there's a shooting. That's how you know these things are fake. Any school shooting where you see a kid talking to the news media about what they heard or what they saw, you have to know that kid signed a release, or rather their parents had to sign a release for that kid to be on the news. So their parents had to agree, it's a good idea for my kid who witnessed a violent crime to put his face on TV. It's a good idea for my kid who witnessed a massacre to permanently attach him or herself to the event on the news, in the media, forever. Like, that is so ill-advised. Who would suggest that? That's how you know it's fake. Anyway, the way I've set up the blog too, because this is a blogger, so it's like not a expensive, it's just a simple blogger, but the way I make use of it is I set it up so that every new post will be categorized as a blog post, but then I have archives on the left and on the right so that you'll have an alphabetized listings, and then you'll have chronological. And then also every post is, like I said, going to be mirrored on Everpedia. So Everpedia is, like I said, blockchain. It's going to be a permanent record, but so we're going to have high quality wiki level posts, but they're going to be embedded here, which makes them easier to share. It'll proliferate. We'll get a lot more hits. And also, I'll just be updating these blogs periodically. I think I've covered all the buttons here. So anyway, I'm going to fill it up. I think we'll get a lot more traction and far more hits than we did with the wiki. And I have a lot more control here because honestly, I don't trust the company that runs my wikis. Twice this year, once I started having a number of contributors adding articles, the site was shut down by so-called bots. Okay, let's go back to the Pearl Harbor Naval Base. Let's take a look and see if this looks legit. Military personnel describe lockdown during shooting. Okay, let's take a listen. Again, why is he talking to NBC?
We don't know a whole lot. We got a bunch of texts from our
Shooter
friends
is
on the
down.
ship.
You don't know a whole lot, but you got a lot of texts from your friends. Now, who said, like, did his commander give him permission to talk to the media? This is another question that I have. I brought this up with PFC Oakley, who we called a phony, who was exposed as a phony by El Paso police when they said he didn't do any of the things that he said he did on TV. Think about that. PFC Oakley, the guy who saved all the kids at the Walmart shooting, he said he was at the mall during the shooting and he saved kids at the mall. There was no shooting at the mall. It was at the Walmart. El Paso police called him out on it. He was stationed at Fort Bliss, but he went AWOL. And they arrested him later. And yeah, his story was exposed as a total hoax. But my question at that point was, who gave him permission to talk to the media? If you're a soldier, do you have the right, or do you have to get permission to go put your face on TV? So this is interesting in itself. And then what's more, and I'm only 4 seconds into it, he basically says, I don't know anything, just what a bunch of my friends texted me. So, not even citing real sources.
We don't know a whole lot. We got a bunch of texts from our
Shooter
friends
is
on the
down.
ship and on the
5
barge,
sources.
letting us know that there's an active shooter alert. So, me and OSC Richard here, we kind of reacted pretty quickly because we're getting a haircut. So, I mean, our first response was to come here, you know.
Your first response was to what?
So,
Come here, and your first response was to run up to NBC? This is sounding really vague and scripted. Not even believable.
Just wanted to see what's going on.
Yeah, exploring again. I thought so too. That hat is against uniform. So I find that weird too. I want to see what's on it. Maybe
he does.
Okay. So what did your friends say exactly? Like, do they know much?
So what we was told was we have like multiple friends like that live on base, and like they contact me because we live right next to each other, and they asked me because like sirens and we have a 1MC on base that goes off, the entire base area is pretty loud, and like they was just saying like there was an active shooter, and like there was a, is it real, is it fake, is it real, is it fake?
Is it real? Is it fake? Is it real? Is it fake? This is great. We're going to have to remix that one. This guy brought his bars. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it real? Is it fake? He's got the sirens going on in the background. Look, we're hearing an account of two guys who went through an alarm. Like they didn't see anything. They didn't hear anything. So the base went on lockdown. What's the big deal? There's no story here. But he's like, is it real? Is it fake? Why would that even be a question in your mind? That's never the question. You know, but it is when you're lying.
We have a 1MC on base that goes off, the entire base area is pretty loud, and like they was just saying like there was an active shooter, and like there was a is it real, is it fake, is it real, is it fake type thing. But you know, we have a friend that's right next to it, like cause it's DD2, which is dry dock area 2, so that's where multiple ships are, like you know, that aren't going underway, like you know, currently being worked on, and so like that's where we currently are. And my friend's like he was just leaving, he's in a parking lot, like it was like right next to it, and he was just telling us like, you know, he.
So he's trying to relay to us what his friend who was closer experienced.
Like just ran to like a nearest car type thing, but yeah, that's really like the gist that we got of it is that you know it is 100% real. You know, if it wasn't, then all this wouldn't be happening.
Okay,
like, yeah,
this is great. The gist of it is is that it's 100% real because if it wasn't, this wouldn't be happening. What wouldn't be happening? You wouldn't be forgetting your lines? Like this is so corny. These guys are being paid. He's not Navy. Look, these could be actors. I mean, does the Navy wear Digicam? Do they wear ball caps? I don't see any uniform. I don't see any rank. Where's his supervisor? I mean, look, this just doesn't seem legit to me. I mean, I was after the horrible experience of high school. I spent some time in the military, and they didn't let you do crap. Like, there's no way you could go walk up to NBC out of uniform And the way he's standing, they would even have a problem with that. They're a bunch of control freaks. They treat you like property. You're not allowed to run around the mall with your gun like PFC Oakley claimed he did. Let's go on.
You know, if it wasn't, then all this wouldn't be happening. But like, yeah, he said like, you know, he possibly heard like a gunshot. He was confused, like if it wasn't. But you know, so like he said, our first response is to come here. You know, we have dozens of friends that live on.
Yeah, I see a little duper's delight. I saw a little grin. I don't know if that was nervousness or what, but yeah, this is just keeping up with the crisis actors. This guy gets not a golden hoggy because there's no fake, there's no tears, not even an attempt. We need to have another version of it. Maybe maybe an award for best duper's delight. You know, it's like just a big smiley face. See, this guy is not aware of anything. He heard something. He thought he heard an alarm. Yeah, thank you. Exploring again. There's no way they would not let you talk to the media. If you're in the military, if you're a soldier, and you can ask anybody in the military, say, hey, look, if there's an incident on the base like a suicide, are you going to be allowed to run up to NBC and tell them a bunch of baloney because you don't know anything? Can you go spread rumors to the media? Like, I wasn't there, but my friend's at DD2. He's a little closer, and he texted me, and he said he thought he heard some pops, but it might not have been a shot. Like, could you be any vaguer? Could you be any vaguer? So this is supposedly a Marine who's talking to NBC about whatever happened. But he doesn't know, and he says, is it real? Is it fake? Is it real? Is it fake? It's 100% real, because if it wasn't real, this wouldn't be happening. No, if it was real... No, he said if it wasn't real. If it was real, this wouldn't be happening. Like, this is just out of the ordinary. These ones they do on the military bases are usually kind of hokey. And the thing is, they don't have the big media... Hollywood presentation with the special effects. Like, you didn't see anything. You don't actually see the effects because this is actually at a closed military base. So the reporter that you saw, and that was so unprofessional, I don't know if you caught that, but when they pushed the camera over, she put her face kind of in the screen for a second. Watch. This is pretty bad all around. So she's probably there you go, check that out. This is not a normal this is a, I don't know exactly, but I suspect this is a military base reporter. Let's take a look here. Who is this? Anyway, let's move on. I want to go through some of your comments. Dry dock is being worked on, so it means it's closed to the public. Okay, so he wouldn't have been... Interesting. Okay, let's move on. We got other things in the chat I want to read into. Honolulu is heavily Masonic. Yeah, well, the military is very Masonic. I mean, nothing new there. This is where it's at, says, I cannot confirm nor deny this. Please go to the public affairs officer. That's what they're supposed to say. Yeah, exactly. They have a public affairs officer, a media personnel who specifically is there to address the media on behalf of the base. Let's continue. I want to find out if there's anything else here. This guy doesn't know anything, but he's assuring us it's real, even though he has questions. If it's real or if it's fake.
Yeah, it's really like the gist that we got of it is that, you know, it is 100% real, you know. If it wasn't, then all this wouldn't be happening. But like, yeah, he said like, you know, he possibly heard like a gunshot. He was confused, like if it wasn't. But, you know, so like he said, our first response is to come here. You know, we have dozens of friends that live on base, you know, are still on board and things like that. That's in that general area. So concerned, worried, be the words to use, I guess.
Yeah, we heard, not confirmed yet, but we are hearing 3 fatalities. Kind of goes through your mind when you think about that, especially since it's so close to you folks.
See, this sounds like method acting in a way. Like, you know, when the actor is told to respond to something. So the reporter says, how does it feel on the inside? What are your emotions? What does it feel like in your heart when you think about people dying? How do you feel? Do you feel worried about the people who are still over there? Tell us how you feel about victims. You know, like, she's leading him on so that he can give you a heartfelt. This is acting. This isn't asking for someone to report facts. She's a reporter. She should be over there looking up stuff. She's here getting non-eyewitness. This guy's not an eyewitness. He's got friends who might have been closer to the event. Fake, fake, fake.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and I pray to God that it's knowing that I don't want no one to die, but as anyone said, I hope it's not knowing that I know, know and love in there. So just hoping for the best, I guess.
About you, what's kind of
See that? Did you see that laugh? Not bad. This guy's super nervous, can't even look at the camera. But this guy here is grinning. Doesn't even know what he's saying. He's ad-libbing. Let's hope for the best. This happens all the time. Like, what is he even talking about? This is pretty terrible. Thank you. This is actually bad good. Lilith said he reminds me of Brendan Kelly. I was playing Brendan Kelly before because I'm like, wait, if you have military personnel participating in PSYOPs, well, the PSYOP is intended to attack your First and Second Amendment, your Fourth Amendment. It's against the Bill of Rights. So if you're in the military, you swore an oath to defend these things. And so it's a little unusual, it's a little disconcerting that they would be selling out on that level. It's not your usual act whores. We're talking about military personnel engaging in psychological operations and getting Purple Hearts for it. If you look at the Fort Hood event.
About you, what's kind of going through your mind, kind of seeing this all unfold?
I mean, pretty much the same thing that he's saying. It's really unclear, obviously, because we're not there.
There's the sirens. There's the drama. Oh, he's like, yeah, what he said. It's unclear.
We want to know what's going on. We want to help, obviously, but we can't. So, it's probably like the worst part.
What is your first name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Richie. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, well. I give them both Fs. Keeping up with the crisis actors. There are still numerous emergency vehicles coming in every 5 or 10 minutes. The Naval Shipyard is on base. Pearl Harbor Memorial is 1.5 miles away. Look, the anniversary of the Japanese attack is on Saturday. Yeah, what's with the smirk? What's with the smirk? Look, that is not somebody who's concerned. He doesn't know Jack. And look, if he actually knew the guy who was shot or anybody in the vicinity, they would be texting right now. The idea that he's clueless, no, this is all meant, this is just theater. Like you all know, this is theater. So, confirmed hoax, no reason to think it's anything but. It's not a false flag. And the reason I'm saying that this is even a hoax is that they don't report every suicide. They don't report every incident if they're real. But this is way too conveniently timed for the holidays. It's PSYOP season, and this ties into the mental health agenda, which, I mean, I haven't looked that closely into it yet. But we're going to see. I'm predicting right now, and we'll see if I'm correct. I'm predicting that this is going to somehow tie into mental health and issues with suicide in the military. And probably something about how everyone needs to be screened for mental health before they get a job. You know, it's crazy, but they're getting people so accustomed to the idea that anybody at any time could just snap. Navy sailor shoots 3 before killing himself. So this is, of course, a tragedy. I'm going to bring this up as a tragedy, but it's like I said, it's going to be used as a referendum on you. They're going to say, well, this is America. You did this. You need your big military. You know, you create these conditions. You blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he shot and injured 3 DOD civilians before shooting himself. And here's another indication it's probably hoaxy. Governor David Ige says, I join in solidarity with the people of Hawaii as we express our heartbreak over this tragedy. Details still emerging at the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickman. The White House reached out as well. So when you have the governor stepping in and the White House stepping in and just basically giving you the same story that nobody actually would be able to know by now. Like the president after El Paso came out and he said, we may need to start locking people up for mental health reasons because this guy was clearly affected by video games and internet conspiracy theories. You know, they come out on top of this thing as though it's all true, and they lend credence to the narratives that it's being used to advance. So the governor comes out, the president comes out. This is why I say that President Trump is crisis actor in chief. Or he's going along because he has to. which means that he's part of the PSYOP industrial complex. And you can decide for yourself why he would be complicit in this stuff. Previous coverage, multiple law enforcement agencies are converging on the base. Authorities have not confirmed. Here we go, wait. This is a little earlier. The city's medical examiner's office is working in conjunction with the Navy. They've received one patient, haven't released a name. I'm going through to see if there's anything else in here, anything Masony. What would Zach Hubbard say? There's a number of 33s. Of course, 3 people 3 days before. Definitely has its signature. The city issued an alert that Pearl Harbor gates are closed due to an ongoing investigation. The bus personnel will assist people with free transfers. They always have a way of making sure that everybody in the town is somewhat inconvenienced or in some way made aware of it. Kind of like how they shut down all the mosques in New Zealand after that shooting. Or they put them all on alert. It's to make sure that all the sheep who are being trained to fear this particular bad guy are properly agitated. EL03 brings up the false alarm. Yeah, wasn't the false alarm about this time last year? Can somebody look it up on the date? That's the false missile attack or whatever that everyone got alerted to on their phones. They said, hey, you're all going to die in a few minutes. Incoming. And then it was like, my bad. It was just a drill. And then later, the governor comes out and says, well, that was great. Now we know how we will respond if we're actually going to be hit by a nuke. Like, that is so strange how they can somehow conflate abuse with education. Like, well, it's for your own good. Terrorizing you for your own good. Yeah, we're going to point guns at your kids and treat them like prisoners, but that's so they can be better equipped to deal with oppressors with guns who treat them like prisoners. Okay, so let's see what else is going on. I'm kind of going through the news feeds on this topic. There's not a whole lot there, but look, I'm going to update autohoax.com. I'm going to transfer everything from the wiki site onto the news site. So I'm going to do that now. A few other small things. George Zimmerman suing the Trayvon Martin family for $100 million. More theater, more... This is so bad, actually. I looked at this one. Oh, nice. The cops shot someone in Chicago. Nothing new there. But if it's making news, it's probably a psyop. Look, the media is actually not there for reporting. It's there for giving you your nightly psychological operation. George Zimmerman sues family of Trayvon Martin, prosecutors, publisher, for $100 million. And it has to do with one of the witnesses that was on the phone with Trayvon when Trayvon was accosted by Zimmerman in the story. And I remember at this time how they would say, like, this is a quote, "It's disgusting and shameful that George Zimmerman, a man who killed an unarmed child, got away with it and is now suing." So a man killing an unarmed child. Like, the way they framed it, this was when I started to really become savvy to the media, was after the Trayvon Martin thing. Because that's when I realized, as they say, the first casualty of war is the truth. Well, it's especially true for the Psywar, where they will lie, they will doctor footage, they will manufacture stuff. For example, George Zimmerman isn't exactly blonde or blue-eyed. He doesn't look like a neo-Nazi. So when he attacks the child, they wanted to frame it. So the media said, oh yeah, it was a big scary white guy killed a black child. That's how they framed it. And they try to make that stick. And then when the pictures show up, it doesn't stick so well. So ABC News got caught doctoring the photos of George Zimmerman to de-emphasize the wounds on his face and lighten his skin. And then they started calling him a, quote, white Hispanic. And at that time, I think it was Limbaugh had done some searches on the phrase, in quotes, white Hispanic, and they found that that term had not been applied to anybody or used in the media as a way of categorizing anybody. So they invented, on the spot, a new racial category so they could keep the black versus white dialectic going. So they sacrificed the truth because don't want to get in the way of a good story with some of these inconvenient facts. Now, I think the whole story, looking back on it, I tend to think that the thing is fake from top to bottom. You know, for a long time I thought it was real. This is one of the last psyops where I still had a lot of doubts. But the more I look into it, the more obvious it is. But this is also, it was very educational. So this guy obviously was something of a psychopath, a wannabe cop. You know, real or not, we're looking at characters. But it was fascinating how the right wing really tried hard to soften his character. And so Rush Limbaugh referred to George Zimmerman as cherubic. You know, because he had gained some weight, like a chubby little angel. Like you're going to call a murderer in a story, you know, a chubby little angel. And then the other side's calling their guy a baby. You know, oh, you killed a child. This was just, to me, like I said, this was a great illustration of how the mass media competes. You know, it's left versus right. They compete for the best story. They try to frame it. Another great example was the Orlando disco shooting, where the people on the right, and I know, okay, look, this is fascinating. So the people on the right blame terrorism. Yeah, he was a terrorist. His dad was in the Taliban, and his dad said that gay people ought to be killed. Death penalty. That was Omar Mateen's father's position. So that was on the right. So Omar Mateen shoots up a gay disco, and then he kills himself, or whatever. Well, the story that comes out on the left is completely opposite. The people on the left say, no, he wasn't a terrorist, because there's no such thing as terrorism. No, he was a repressed right-winger, as in he was a gay Muslim on the right who loved guns, and he was a security guard. And the reason why he killed the people at the disco was because of American homophobia made him ashamed of what he was, or who he was. And he got AIDS from one of his boyfriends. So now you have an AIDS-infected, like, revenge story that has more to do with Americans being homophobic. So the left was able to say, shame on you, America, because you're homophobic, all these gay people died. Well, the right's like, shame on you, Democrats, open borders, tolerance, look what happens. So they all fight over the same fake event, each using it to their own political advantage. And if any of these if any side, like if the right was really here for legitimate reasons and they had some kind of principle here, they would have said, well, that whole thing was staged. But no, in all likelihood, the Orlando event was staged by Trump. I'm pretty sure of it. A number of reasons, and Kushner's tying into this too. And it all has to do with votes. You know, because they were saying Trump's a homophobe, and it's like a week before Gay Pride Parade. And the next thing you know, there's a Gay Pride festival or whatever, you know, and they're actually celebrating Trump because he came out with a rainbow flag and said, I will protect you from the Muslims. This is the perpetual war that Orwell told us about. Hey, let's take a listen here. This is the Trayvon Martin family with their... Oh, look, she's actually a candidate for County Commission District 1. Wouldn't be the first time you see people in the PSYOP industrial complex mixing with politics. One second. You know what? I'm not going to play it. I don't want to get flagged for some dumb commercial. It's a different PSYOP anyway. I'm going to have to do a whole nother piece on the Trayvon Martin thing. I want to go through it from top to bottom. Because that one also showed you how the hip-hop community was now also helping to bolster all of these PSYOPs. Like, so basically, you had people like Jay-Z and others coming out with Trayvon Martin swag. Then you had Jamie Foxx, where they created a martyr. And the martyr was being used again as a way to assume the moral high ground over police. But I mean, as you all know who've been watching this thing, these events are made to stir the pot. That's why I am an inactivist. I don't believe in getting engaged. If you take a side, if you're marching in the street, guess what? You pretty much just fell into a trap. Oh, by the way, guess who else got banned? Red Pill Philosophy. You know the guy from the Bounty paper towels, the lumberjack? This is the guy who's been fence squatting. And I said this for a while. I said, hey, look, you got these fence squatters. In fact, it's because of him we came up with the term purple pill. So you got red pill, which is exit the matrix. You got blue pill, which is enjoy the matrix. And then you got those who sit on the fence and they say, I want to exit the matrix, but most of my subscribers are still hitting the blue pill crack pipe. So I'm going to squat on the fence until I have more subs in the red than on the blue. So this guy's been on the fence for years. Never stands up for the auto hoaxers. Never stands up for it at all. In fact, if anything, he doesn't even stand up for the idea of flat earth. He's not even willing to challenge it that hard. He's like, well, I'll just debate it. I'll keep asking questions, but I'm going to squat on the fence. While squatting on the fence, he wasn't doing anything to advance the conversation. He wasn't doing anything with it. So, red pill philosophy, for a long time, I consider him to be right there in the purple. 1 foot in the red, 1 foot in the blue. Although, where is he in the red? I haven't actually even seen that. So, here's what he wrote, though. And this is what I said. I said, when they came for the auto hoaxers, the false flaggers didn't stand up for us. And boom. You know, they've been... Look, I've been shut down 69 times since the Vegas hoax. That's a banned phrase. Vegas hoax. Can't even say that. We have so many banned phrases, you know, secular blasphemies, little heresies that they've criminalized. Just wait until they criminalize alternative facts, is what they'll call it, or misinformation. So check this out. Hey everyone, this morning, December 3rd, my channel received a strike for hate speech. I cannot upload new videos or stream live for 7 days, which means I'm not allowed back until December 10th, the very day that the YouTube purge is supposed to start. Also, IPS's channels were deleted. No, he didn't say that. He said also Owen Benjamin's channels were all deleted a few hours after I got my strike. I'm convinced there's some serious purging about to take place, but we shall see. You ought to just self-purge. And you know what we're going to see here? What we're going to see is who's real and who's not. Who actually has a complete ecosystem. Who has an actual think tank that exists, a network that exists outside of YouTube's little confines. You know, you have big channels of people who... It's always strange to me how you can have some channels with 100,000 subs. They go live and a couple hundred people are watching. You have some channels with 2,000 subs and they have just as many. So I'm like, what gives? Are their subscribers dying? Are they losing their phones? Not paying their internet bills? What's happening to 95% of your subscribers when you hit live? Could it be that you're paying for them? So we're going to find out very soon, because when we break away from that particular compromised, over-trolled, over-spammed platform, over-regulated, you're going to see who has an actual following and who was actually faking it. And ultimately, this is about real versus fake. In clout, you know, people think that you can just buy followers. You can't. It's really about the ideas and disseminating those ideas. At least this is. You know, here we are, not allowing the media to get a pass on any of their psyops. So there will be a full write-up on autohoax.com, including everything that we know up to this point about the event. And I'm probably also going to do a lot more as far as transcripts and everything else. Like, I really want to fill this autohoax.com up so that you can't help but run into it when you start searching for these events, because they have been burying this. And the newspaper, Autohoax, is going to be a newspaper. Oh, by the way, I heard a new Mandela effect today. This is how you know whose priorities are totally screwed up. If you're more concerned about whether or not Frosty the Snowman had a scarf in the cartoon that you watched when you were 10 than about the fake shooting happening on a naval base, then your priorities are totally screwed up. If you're mandoozled and you can't figure out if you just can't spell long words or if you keep getting them wrong or if reality is shifting, your priorities are screwed up. Like here we are being censored because we're telling the truth. And even the channels that only half tell the truth, like Red Pill Philosophy, are being censored. And we have these people who are like, I don't know, they have their heads somewhere else, in another universe, quite literally. Fire Susan Wojcicki. I don't care if she gets fired. You know, I'm actually proud, I'm actually happy that we're at a point where an openly fascist corporation can state its fascist agenda and fascists will support it. And they can tell the rest of us just get lost. So now there's no denying it. There's no longer any denying the fact that we do have YouTube is a prime example of a government-run corporation pretending to be legit. Just like your media. You know your mainstream media is controlled by the government. You know it's just a mouthpiece for government. It's how the elite communicate to you. So YouTube is MSMTube. It's not any different anymore. Now that they managed to get all of the hecklers off the scene. And that's what they're trying to do. They see us as hecklers. Mudflutter said this should have been done 5 years ago. Yes and no. I mean, we've been preparing for this from pretty much since Vegas. You know, we moved into Discord right after Vegas. Like the day after. The thing is, we couldn't just completely exodus. We can't exodus. We still have to get those stragglers. And we will. Starting tomorrow, I'm actually going to have it so that anyone who's on, I think it's Patreon, you get a live notification. You'll have the option of watching on YouTube only because the chat module is something people are used to. But it's going to be unlisted and it's going to be pretty much just for those who are subscribed. And it's for your convenience because the chats all show up in the same module. This is a real quick piece here I saw in the Washington Post. Archaeologists use a radar and they found a massive Viking ship buried on an island. Little mud floody. What's with all these things being buried? But the first line here is the reason I wanted to look at this piece. There was no greater honor for a Viking than to die in battle and begin a journey from the flat earth towards Valhalla, where the eternal feast awaited. So it's from flat earth to Valhalla. So here you have an article that shows you flat earth and mud flood, all in one piece. Of course, it's all radar, but I'm not sure how deep it is. It's in a Norwegian field. We'll take a quick look here. It's CGI, so you know it's real. So there you go. I'm curious as to how it got buried. We'll see if it has any information about this. Agile vessel, 1,000 years old. The georadar vehicle rumbled over the soil and found the husk of a ship inside of a burial mound, 60 feet diameter. Okay, so it's inside of a burial mound. That's what they're saying. There are only 3 well-preserved Viking ships in Norway, and they're all housed in Oslo. We need more. So I guess they're going to dig it out. All right, so let's go back to the main topic. Someone actually, this is on the topic of mud flood. Because people look at these videos with these old megaliths and they say, oh, there's no way that man could have built that. No way we could do it today. Had to be giants. had to be petrified Nephilim elephants. They come up with whatever they have to come up with to explain things. Just so stories. And you know, just so stories are so entertaining. Remember the elephant child? I don't know if you heard that one. It explains how elephants have trunks. Some precocious elephant child was so annoying that his family kicked him out, and he goes to the swamp, and an alligator grabs at his snout. He gets saved by his family, who pull him by the tail, but then his nose elongates. Like, that's a just so story. Anyway, this is a video showing how one man can lift a 20-ton block by hand. No giants, just one man using mechanical leverage. Man from Michigan has discovered how to move and lift 20-ton blocks by hand using wood, pebbles, counterweight, and manpower. So this should
4,000 years ago, Stone Age Britons raised this mysterious monument, Stonehenge. Nobody knows how they did it, how they moved and stood these massive stones. It's a scientific mystery. This man swears he's cracked. He's building his own Stonehenge in his Flint, Michigan backyard.
Peanuts Clark says, do you agree they had electric power tools back then? Well, when I look at some of the architecture and this idea of Antiquitech, it does seem to make sense that there could have been some sort of wireless power grid widely in use all over the place. What I see missing from what we see are plumbing, wiring, but maybe these are things that weren't part of their infrastructure. But this is interesting in itself.
To prove it, Wally Wallington's...
My own output, I could move a 1-ton block 300 feet per hour.
Using this technique, he's moved everything from 1-ton blocks to buildings.
He moved up to a pole barn at one point, a 30 by 40 pole barn that he moved 300 feet for me, and it was more or less, what else can we move? And he looked at me and says, hey, can we move your barn? And I said, sure, let's, next thing you know, it was 300 feet in the other direction onto another piece of property.
It can move barns, and Wally's betting it moves Stonehenge's 25-ton rocks. But raising these giants is a whole different puzzle.
This is 19,200 pounds. Yeah, it's 128 cubic feet of concrete.
Today, Wally hopes to solve it.
So, I'm going to skip through it a little bit more, but he was just showing how there might be some mundane explanations for some of the things that we are led to believe would require something mystical or magical.
Block back and forth, adding weight to that end, and that opens a gap on this side, and just slide a board in. Then I add the weight to that end, there she goes, and slide a board in on this end.
This shoring box acts like a jack, slowly raising the block. It's 3 feet off the ground, but tomorrow is the big experiment, standing it up.
Okay, so you saw how he was walking back and forth, manipulating the weight, rocking it, and then putting wedges beneath it, kind of working like a jack. Or actually working exactly like a mechanical jack.
Wash out and the block will start coming down.
Once the sand is washed from the pit, the block's own weight slowly stands it up.
So he stands it up. He stands up a 20-ton block. Okay, no giants, no petrified Nephilim, nothing. Mudflutter says that's how they learned how to make concrete. Well, look, mud flood is not the same thing exactly. The mud flood theory, whatever, is used to explain whatever wiped out whoever was here before, and then looking at the remnants of the previous age, according to this theory, there is a great deal to suggest that what we're looking at may actually be an advanced civilization who had some system electric power. Yeah, exactly. There was the guy with the batteries out of a 5-gallon bucket using a copper coil, burying it in the ground, and using the Earth's magnetic field to generate power. So this is all very interesting. And then also this is something to look at. It was in the news today. This is your wall. So I've been talking about supporting Hillary Clinton. Flat Earthers for Hillary Clinton. It's on Facebook. And I was like, well, maybe because she's against walls. Don't you? If you think the world's flat and you think there may be more land beyond the walls, then you wouldn't want borders. You should be for a borderless world. That's a Democrat thing. And look at this. We ought to consult these guys for Storm Antarctica. He hops the wall, Border Patrol's coming. You see him running in the back. Run. It's like, run, Jose, run. He got away. And one other thing, these politicians, sometimes they give away just how twisted they are. Check this out. This is Andrew Wang. Okay, and basically Andrew Wang is...
That's right. That's a full-service presidential candidate. Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, look at this. We inaugurated the office in style. No office opening is complete. Who's next? Get in here.
So what you just saw was your future president, Andrew Wang, and he's got a bottle of whipped cream, and he's shaking it vigorously, and then he's holding it at waist level, and his male supporters are gathering around, hitting their knees, opening their mouths, and he's pouring the whipped cream into their mouth, saying, "Welcome to your full-service presidency." And then over here, someone says it's pronounced Yang. Okay. Might be a Mandela effect. I thought it was Wang. But anyway, another guy lines up, and he wants a mouthful of Wang's whipped cream. And then Wang's handler comes along and is like, "Hey, man, you got to stop. The internet's looking. You got to see this handler in the back." See that? He's like, "The internet's looking. You got to cut that out." And this, to me, this should obviously sink his whole presidency. I mean, poor judgment, no idea, no insight as to how this looks. Like, there's that one meme. It's like always, watch what you're standing in front of before you eat a corn dog. And it has this guy eating a corn dog in front of Sistine Chapel, and the corn dog's lined up with Adam's crotch. I mean, this is just basic optics. So, there you go.
Thank you, Andrew. That was great.
I mean, who thought this was a good idea? Did anybody? So that's his new office. They opened it up, and I guess that's how you celebrate. I don't know what this is, honestly. But what I'm thinking is, it gives you some insight into their culture. Because whoever he associates with, the people he's usually around, probably wouldn't see anything unusual about this. They wouldn't even think it looks bad. And I'm not really inferring too much other than clearly this guy is kind of, like I said, poor judgment. So he'll make a perfect president. Speaking of, here's Donald Trump, and here's some advice he has for those guys who were hopping the wall just a minute ago.
Never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't allow it to happen. If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall. Never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't allow it to happen. If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall. Never, ever.
All right, so that'd be Trump. I'll be back later on. I want to continue to go through the news here. We kind of went through it in the beginning about this thing in Pearl Harbor. It's obviously a PR stunt. And one thing really quick, this is a fact check, just came out with AFP. Australia, the world's biggest hoax. Apparently this is still going around. For more than a decade, posts on social media have claimed that Australia is a hoax. So this is even before Flat Earth. This is what I just learned, because this false claim that it doesn't exist, and this is just, they said this was a place that existed, and really they were just sending the criminals out to go drown. That was the story. It says here, Australia is not real. It's a hoax made for us to believe that Britain moved their criminals over to some place. 162,000 were transported to some imaginary land they never reached. Shelley Flord is her name. Been wondering who this was because this went viral. And then right after they said, oh, all flat earthers don't believe in Australia. Well, this is the one who did it. Australia is not real. It's a hoax. All the things that you call proof were well-fabricated lies and documents made by the leading governments of the world. Your Australian friends, they're all actors and computer-generated persons, part of the plot to trick the world. Goes on to say, it's one of the biggest hoaxes ever created. You've been tricked. Join the movement. Make it known that they've been deceived. The things these Australians are said to be doing. Let me go on. Yeah, this is, I guess it was a serious thing, but it was attributed to flat earthers last year, like misattributed. Like I have never heard anyone deny Australia. What we're saying is they're not upside down. That's a far cry from they don't exist. Okay, I'll be back later. Thanks for joining. You need to sign up at Patreon, infiniteplanesociety.com for live notifications and newsletters and other updates. We are 100% post YTube. I don't even want to say their name. I'm trying to delete it from my vocab. We have our own system. We have our own think tank. We have our numbers. We don't really even need what they have to offer, which is what? Access to offended church ladies and trolls. YouTube's basically become that way anyway. It's run amok by these moral busybodies who have nothing better to do than try to censor everybody else's ideas and thoughts, and they don't have anything to replace it yet. It's a bunch of book burners, and none of us here value book burning. Okay, so I will be back. I'm waiting for my browser to catch up here. There's a bit of a lag. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else on Minds. Just a moment. Okay. Justin Bieber addresses past remarks for racial equality. There is something going on there. It's beyond virtue signaling. It's character building. There's a certain archetype. I'll probably get into that later. And also, I got a really interesting email this morning from Cam B I want to go over because we may have proof. We may actually have proof that Beaver and The Weeknd are two different people. So I may be able to prove that to you. I mean, we may actually have evidence of that. So the idea that one was deep faking as the other, as compelling as that theory is, and despite all that we have found that seems to substantiate it, now it's starting to look a little more the other way, unless you're willing to assert that somebody else is wearing a Weeknd mask. But we'll see. I'm going to examine it. Like I said, we're fact-oriented here, and when the facts don't agree with our beliefs, well, we just adjust.
It's not about...
So I'll see you all later. Sign up below.
Spin like earth, don't spin. Spin, spin.